AM 1220 KDOW and Money 2.0 present The Real Estate Report with Tony Mendez and Gordon Hines. Bay Area real estate and mortgage experts with over 25 years in the business. Now, with an in-depth look at this week's local and national real estate news and what it means for you. Your hosts, Tony Mendez and Gordon Hines.
Welcome back into the Real Estate Report. I am Tony Mendez.
And I'm Gordon Hines.
Thanks for being with us. This is a live show, call-in show, 800-516-1220, 800-516-1220. We were talking real estate. We were talking mortgages. We're talking the Fed rate increase that happened, was that yesterday, right? Yesterday? We're going to talk about whether you should still get an equity line instead, because those are tied towards that prime rate, which went up, what is it, 4.5% right now. So these are some of the things we're going to hit today. There's plenty of other things to talk about. And I just ran across a really interesting article about something called a blended rate equity driver. Anybody out there know what that is? Give us a call. But it's a way that the National Association of Realtors is trying to promote this new kind of blended rate equity driver, this new kind of product to their agents so that it can help you sell. I don't know why realtors are trying to sell mortgages. That's one of the reasons why we do this show. But you should always talk to your mortgage agent. But this is something we're going to talk about today. 800-516-1220, 800-516-1220. Obviously, the first news out there is that the Fed raised their rate to a quarter, pushing the prime up to 4.5. Some say it's a bit too early for this. Others say the economy is on the right way, on the right track to warrant this kind of increase. Personally, I like the changes. Anything that changes in the market kind of incites people to make moves. But I'm not sure if, mortgage rates didn't move. Just so you know, mortgage rates actually went down. Leading up to this, Gordon, as we always know, the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and all the investors and the Ginnie Mae, they're wrapping all these things together and they end up building all that in. But mortgage rates actually came down after the news. But what are your thoughts on the rate increase? We know it's going to affect equity lines. We know it's going to affect credit card rates and maybe car loans and so on. But people are start thinking equity lines might not make as much sense as a 30-year fixed, which, by the way, may have gone down a little bit.
Well, I don't always agree with some of the people I hear on TV, the experts, as we call it. But if you go back through history, this is something we talked about. We just looked at one of the shows we did back in January of 2017. The Fed has slated 4 increases for the year, and I think they did 3. We all knew that it was all on slate or on schedule for a rate increase to come here in December, which it did. I think you're looking at there's a number of different reasons why the rates went up. We're transitioning from one Fed Reserve chairperson to another. They want to keep the momentum going. If you look at all the leading economic indicators, the stock market, the unemployment numbers, the GDP, all these things are very favorable. We've had low interest rates for, I think, 8 to 10 years. We've been in a very low interest rate environment, which, of course, inflation always trying to creep in anytime you have a low interest environment. So now that the economy is actually now caught back up to scale, I believe it's right on track for the Fed to raise rates. The rates on the street might not have changed, but the overall economics of rates to the consumer will change because you will see car loans go up. You will see interest rates on adjustable rates go up. You will see interest rates on credit cards.
Look at the LIBOR. The LIBOR is up a whole point in like a year and a half, and people who are sitting nice with those 5-year arms, 7-year arms that started adjusting, and they're like, oh my gosh, my rate's 3.25. Now that's going to start, that's up quite a bit. But let's talk about equity lines, Gordon. So right now you can get a cash out on a primary residence, conforming loan. You can get cash out in the low 4s. Meanwhile, you can get an equity line that's still adjustable, and the Fed's still talking about raising rates, in the future. And why would you get an equity line when you can get a cash out? We know the real answer here is people already have a nice 30-year fixed loan to begin with. Okay, why would they, and a good rate on that? Why would they push it up? We got to kind of blend it. You would get an aggregate rate there and see what actually makes sense. But people are starting to see this, Gordon, go up. And
there's a lot of reasons why a lot of people get equity lines. For one thing, the biggest reason why most people get equity lines because they're easy to get. It's not a lot of paperwork. A lot of people talk about when they go through the whole mortgage crisis, they feel like they've been in a wrestling match because there's so much paperwork involved. There's so much demands for this, demands for that. Equity line is you go and you fill out a 1-page application. They don't even do an appraisal in most cases. They might drive by the house and bam, you're signing for an equity line in your house.
Heavily marketed.
The biggest difference is, of course, I think one of the biggest sellers on the equity lines is you pay me later. You don't pay me now. And that's a lot of people kind of get sucked into that pressure, and later on they end up paying for it. So you take out a $200,000 equity line today, you only draw $1,000, you're paying under $1,000. Versus if you got a $200,000 fixed rate,
you're paying all the interest.
You're paying interest all up front, regardless if you use it.
So it is a lot more flexible. Obviously, you can. I've always told people when they're looking at an equity line that they look at how fast they can pay it back, right? If you can borrow $100,000 and you have a kitchen project, a bathroom project, and a deck project, and they need 1/3 up front, and then another third in the middle, and another third at the end, well, you're not actually paying all that interest as if you were to do a cash out refinance. So there's a lot of flexibility, unless you can't pay it back, and then you tie up all that $200,000 or $100,000 in a longer period of time at a higher rate and adjustable. So there's some things you have to consider. We do these all the time. The one thing, Gordon, you mentioned, they're easy to get, but they're also very heavily marketed everywhere you go. Equity line here, equity line there. It's definitely worth shopping. I walked right over across the street here and just checked out the rates for this one bank. Starts with an M, and their rate was 6.5. But you can go to another bank that starts with a B, and their rate was, they had an introductory, like 16-month or 18-month introductory rate that's below what you can get on a 30-year fixed, and then it adjusts. So if maybe you can borrow the money and then pay it back over that period of time, great. HELOC originations are up 19% in the third quarter compared to last year, and is at a 9-year high. So it's kicking right now, Gordon.
And what HELOCs are back once again because we have improvements in the property value, so naturally the banks are in business for profit, and they're always looking to get more and more money on their bottom line. So that's the reason why they offer these products. The equity line is a very profitable piece of loan for the banks. And you got to think about something that people don't realize. Going back to the example you just gave, you want to get an equity line, you get a $200,000 equity line. You want to improve your house by remodeling the kitchen at $30,000, so you draw $30,000 on that line. Your payment's $300 a month. The only way you're going to actually pay that $30,000 off, you have to throw lump sum payments at that thing. You can't do the standard $30 a month and expect to ever pay that loan off. You got to hit it with $10,000 here, $15,000 here. You know, actually pay that thing off. And most consumers don't have that discipline, and that's where the troubles always start.
So it's definitely, Gordon, I know you've seen both sides of people who use them well. I know you have equity lines in some of the properties you have, and then there's people who just don't know how to manage it. It's like a credit card. They run it up, and then they have to flip it, and maybe their equity isn't there. Maybe they've lied too much on that as far as income, supporting their credit cards and so on, and car payments, and they can't qualify for it later, and they just start running it up on all sides. So it does require quite a bit of discipline and planning ahead.
I think the biggest selling point, in my professional opinion, in having an equity line is emergency cash. If you ever need some emergency money, you have a check writing privilege to write a check for $100,000 for an emergency purpose, some type of emergency opportunity. Bitcoin, you want to buy some Bitcoin? Bam, okay. You can write a check. So there you have it. That's the great selling points of equity line. Emergency money, access to emergency money.
So you kind of want me to break out the story. People are taking out mortgages to buy Bitcoin, says security regulators. Bitcoin is in mania phase, with some people even borrowing money to get rich on the action. Regulator Joe Borg said, "We've seen mortgages being taken out to buy Bitcoin and so on and so on. Credit card lines, equity lines. It's kind of crazy. We haven't had anybody call us yet to say that they want to take out 10, 20, 30. Well, shoot, you have to take out more than 10 to get one. But we haven't had anybody call us on that yet. The whole story started about the prime rate going up, the Fed increasing rates, going to credit cards as well, Gordon. A lot of people should reevaluate their credit cards if they're seeing them go up. There's still going to be those lenders out there that are offering 0% for 18 months, for example. I love that strategy. You don't have to close the card and ruin your credit or hurt your credit with a little speed bump by closing that account. You don't want to close the account. You can leave it open and just get another one. And it's going to take some time for that to repair itself. But why would you pay 8.9 or 13.9% when you can get a 0%? There's a lot. So what do you feel about people moving money from one credit card to another? Because we see this all the time where people end up getting multiple credit cards, and then next thing you know, they have balances on both.
Well, once again, I think all these are great financial profit strategies as long as they're properly implemented. A lot of people, if you have a lot of discipline, and there are many customers I've come across in my lifetime that have discipline to move credit cards. They go out, they use the mileage credit card, they're getting free products. I mean, those people are on top of their financial game. if you're not on top of your financial game, you're going out and just doing things because it sounds good and you heard it on TV. If you don't have the actual discipline, I keep using that word discipline, to implement those things, I think you can actually make a bad decision by jumping from those cards to cards. At the end of the day, you got 3 cards. You got to look what the teaser rate. After that teaser rate, some of those cards go up to, I see them in the mail all the time. I read the fine print. I said one card I was looking at, it was 0% interest for 18 months, and then it went to 29.9%. That's a huge increase.
Not only that, when you make, if let's say you have a 0% for 18 months, but you make a late payment, then it goes to 19%.
Go to default rate.
Yeah. You can't do that when you get those introductory rates. Good topics. 800-516-1220 if you want to join the conversation. 800-516-1220 or send an email to the show. info@BayAreaLoanSource.com. info@BayAreaLoanSource.com. Other topics out there. We've talked about Vegas for a while, and Vegas, doing double digits year over year on their home prices. Inventory's dropping. Sales numbers are still pretty strong. Reno is right there along with them, Gordon. If you're looking for an existing home, like a single family, less than $300,000 right now, there's less than 100 homes on the market right now. That's kind of showing you, number one, it's kind of a story about affordability, Gordon. And number two is just the home prices have gone up. Median home price in Reno right now, in Reno Sparks, is $355, $10,000 shy of their all-time record. Reno on its own, they broke their median price record in July at $387. So what do you make of the Reno market? We're looking at a 15% year-over-year increase in the median home price for both Reno and Sparks. Is that an investor's type of market? And this kind of plays into affordability. We started saying that the median income in Reno is only about $55,000, and that buys about a $350,000 house or lower. Should you buy a $300,000 house and hope to get $400,000 when you're fighting against that median income? Is that an investor's challenge there?
Well, affordability is one of the greatest challenges, especially in our area. Home prices are extreme all-time highs. When you're looking at that $300,000 to $400,000 price range, that's the most competitive price. I got a client right now that's been shopping for a home, and him and his wife they're becoming very discouraged. I said to him, listen, you guys are trying to buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in a $350,000 to $450,000 price range. That's the most affordable price range that you can be in. So it's going to be very competitive. Every time they go out to bid, there's multiple bids. There are people that are paying more for these houses than they want to pay. So they're in a competitive rush to become a homeowner because of that affordability range. If they were probably in the $1 million range, it probably will not be as competitive because the average salary people in this area can afford that price range. So that's what you tend to see. That's why a lot of people are going to those low price range markets, Vegas, for example, Reno, those type of places. That's why those places become very, very popular.
Oakland had a lot of benefit of that same kind of mentality, Gordon. In 1996, the median home price in the city of Oakland was $160,000. In 2011, it was $232,000. In 2017, $715,000. That's 22% annual appreciation rate from 2011 because of the affordability level. So, going back to the question, are people looking in places like Vegas and Reno and Boise's and the Portlands and so on because of the advantages there? Yes. The answer is yes.
I had a client call me the other day want to know what's my opinion on Boise, Idaho. Hey, Gordon, I'm looking at a house in Boise, Idaho. What's your thought process on that? We'll be back.
We'll come back and talk about that after the break. Call the show 800-516-1220 or email the show Tony@BayAreaLoanSource.com. We'll be right back.
This is Money 2.0 on AM 1220 KDOW.
I'm going back to my roots. Another day, another door, another high, another low.
Welcome back into the Real Estate Report. I'm Tony Mendez.
And I'm Gordon Hines.
Put out a newsletter every day. Every 2 weeks. Kind of update everybody on what's going on in the real estate market. It also has all our information, podcasts, and so on. And you go to BayAreaLoanSource.com and get that information. 10-year anniversary this month of the Great Recession. 10 years ago, between 2007 and 2009, the S&P stock market or stock index would lose about half of its value. As many as 10 million families would have walked away from their homes during the foreclosure crisis. From late 2007 to early 2010, payroll jobs would decrease by about 8.7 million, sending the jobless rate to about 10% peak. Even when the recession ended, the initial recovery would barely bounce back. It's crazy looking at this, Gordon, this chart right here, 10% down to 4.1%. unemployment rate. It's fantastic. We've seen a great recovery. Yet something that we still don't recognize is there's a lot of people still underwater on their homes. It's kind of a double-sided story where you have a full recovery in many of the major markets in the United States, and then you have people still recovering in other parts. Even in the Bay Area, there's some people who still call us, and not the immediate, there are people who still call us and say, we're having trouble. We can't refinance. We don't have enough equity. And yes, there are people who over-leverage. They had those interest-only loans. They never built any equity. But it's been a long run. But the other side of the story, too, is that because there's still room to grow in some of these cities, that there's still a recovery in housing. What do you feel about that?
Well, there are a few markets across the country that have not recovered, and very, very few markets here in this area that haven't recovered. A lot of the markets haven't recovered because of appreciation. It's not necessarily paying down on equity. The value in any properties on a 30-year loan, especially in most 30-year loans, you're going to see appreciation by values going up rather than people paying down principal, because it takes so long before you actually start to attack your principal on a 30-year fix. So when you look at those kind of things, and those are one of the benefits of this great area that we talk about all the time, is why people are complaining in other parts of the country is no appreciation. Like I talk about my friend who lives in Mobile, Alabama, bought a house in 1994 for $400,000. Today it's worth the same amount of money. Where you bought a house in 1994 here for $400,000, it's probably worth almost $1.5 million, depending on where the market is. So my house in Richmond, Virginia,
it still hasn't gone up to it's an inexpensive house. $290,000 was his peak. It's still about $250,000. So there's still some places that, and those are places that have land. Yeah. There's a lot of places to build, and the home prices for just a normal sized house. In this case, it's like a 5-bedroom house. You can still buy for $250,000, which you can make $40,000-$50,000 a year. As a couple, that's not that hard to buy a house in a place like Richmond, Virginia. So there are some areas in the United States that I think we're going to see a lot of growth. The Renos, the Boise's on the West Coast, the Vegas. I think people are skipping the Central Valley and heading out towards the mountains, Gordon.
Well, it's all tied. I believe one of the biggest stimulus in that marketplace is employment.
Yep.
That's the reason why you see a lot of these cities now are willing to leverage themselves for NFL teams, for stadiums. They're leverage teams for companies moving in. Amazon announced they're going to move in. Everybody's out there trying to woo them to give them less taxes, less restrictions. All the room they can build on for free land, because they know that as employment comes, as people make money, they're going to invest in where they live, and you're going to see those cities start to appreciate. And that's the biggest stimulus, I believe, is employment.
We have a great guest coming up the next segment, Julie Guy from RE/MAX. She's been in the business for 20 years plus out of the Peninsula. Hope you guys can stick around for that. In the meantime, a little bit more news out there. Down payments at record highs. According to Adam, they were formerly Realty Track in the third quarter of 2017. It reached $20,000. Is the record for the highest down payments, median down payment. Last year it was $14,400. Median down payment exceeded $50,000 in 12 of the 99 statistical areas included in this report. The 4 highest amounts were all paid in California markets. San Jose topped the list at $247,000 as a median down payment. San Francisco at $170,000, Los Angeles $118,000, Oxnard at $105,000, and surprisingly on this list, and you were telling me the other day, I shouldn't be surprised, Boulder, Colorado, with a median down payment of $100,000.
And that goes right back to what I just mentioned. If the reason why San Jose is one of the leaders in down payments is because people down in Silicon Valley are paid extremely well. San Francisco are paid extremely well. So the more money you make, the more money these people are going to be able to leverage to have for down payment.
So if you make the money and you have the down payment, does it make sense to buy? So I think this is a good opportunity to talk about some of the products that are available. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, you can do 3% or 5% down if it's high balance. And that gives you a loan amount somewhere in the 700s. I'm sorry, a purchase price. FHA, 3.5% down on a $653,000 loan. That puts you right at the high sixes. Jumbos, you can do 20% down, but there's 10% down. There's even 5% down up to $2.5 million. So there are opportunities. You still have to qualify with the principal interest and so on. But there are products out there, and I think it's important that we continue talking that if you make the money and you qualify, there are low down payment products out there.
Yeah, and the biggest thing with down payments, basically, as we always talked before, all you're doing is leveraging your monthly payment. The more money you put down, the less your monthly payments are. Some people that can afford high income, they say, hey, I'd rather have the money in my pocket, the money in the bank to make other investments that I make more money from instead of putting that money into the house. We'll be back. Thank you for tuning in.
Yes. Hi.
Hey, Julie, how are you? Can you hear me well?
Can you hear me okay?
I can. Anyway, are you on a cell phone?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you. You definitely sound like you're calling in. So this is going to be pretty standard. I'm not going to surprise you with anything, maybe. But how are you? I'm glad to hear from you. I was thinking of you during the holidays.
Are you still there?
I am.
What size is the little boy?
He's a 3T, but he has so much clothes. Maybe 4. We should just do.
Maybe 4. He's going to be a big boy.
Yeah, let me find out. Hold on. I'll get an answer to you, and I'll text it to you.
Oh, sounds great.
Okay. All right. What is Zeke's size? All right.
Yeah, perfect. And you can text it to me later.
All right. Thank you. You can ask. Gordon will tell you that I can't do more than one thing at a time.
Oh.
Hi, Julie, how are you?
Do you remember Gordon?
I do.
Hi,
Hi,
Julie, how are you?
Gordon. How are you?
Oh, another great day. Good to have you on again. We're going to make this show great again now that you're here.
Oh, well, thank you. You're so sweet. You are.
No, be careful, Ma, because Tony tells me every time I'm being nice to women, that means that I've got ulterior motives. So please.
Oh.
I'm trying to.
No, you're just a
I tell him just a nice guy.
Oh, come on. All right, Julie, we'll be with you in just a minute. Hang tight, okay? I'm pretty sure we're going to keep you for this segment, and then we'll see how long we can keep you in the next, okay?
That's okay. I'm here for you.
Great. All right, just hold on, and we'll be right there.
All righty.
This is Money 2.0 on AM 1220 KDOW.
Welcome back into the Real Estate Report. I'm Tony Mendez.
And I'm Gordon Hines.
You can always call the show 800-516-1220 or email the show Tony at BayAreaLoanSource.com or Gordon at BayAreaLoanSource.com. Gordon likes getting all the investor stuff and kind of those weird scenarios, and we're going to get to some of the emails a little bit later. In the meantime, we have Julie Geyer from RE/MAX. She's with us right now. She's been in the business for 20 plus years. I think it's even longer than that, maybe 30 plus years. And what's even great about this, Julie, and welcome in, Julie. You've been in business in the same location, the same, the San Mateo area for that whole period of time you've been in the business. You even sold Rob Black's house, and I think that's a great little part of your portfolio, your resume that I liked putting out there. But you're the kind of person who I'd like to call mom at one point, because you really do make people feel comfortable around you when you do real estate. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
I want to congratulate you for being one of the realtors still in business in one of the most expensive counties in the United States, and you're successful at it. I'm looking at this crazy stat here that San Mateo County, back in 1996, their median home price was $334,000. In 2011, it was $695,000, and in 2017, it went up to $1.38 million. That's an annual appreciation rate from 2011 of 13.2%. Are we seeing the end of this at all? Because the chart just goes straight up from 2011.
I don't see an end to it. I think that we're going to continue into 2018 with an extremely healthy market.
And when you say healthy, do you mean more inventory, or do you mean that from a seller's perspective, it's pretty darn healthy because they're getting what they want?
Well, from a seller's perspective, I mean, there's such a low inventory right now. We hope by spring that we will see quite a bit more coming on the market. And but we have all the buyers out there just right in line waiting to buy.
That's good news to hear that you have plenty of buyers. What? Tell me how the environment's changed. You've
right now than we have sellers, and I think
that's
there's a huge population of seniors that are kind of sitting on the fence. I think there is something out there now saying that they're trying to change where you can move your tax basis to many counties, and I think if that happens,
Prop 60, I think
we'll see a lot more come on the market.
What's the environment like now? We just talked about how the median home price was $365,000, 20 years ago, and now it's $1.38 million. What are you? How is it changing for you as a realtor, and how you work with your clients?
Well, the clients that we get are pretty well qualified, and they're pretty savvy, and they're professionals. They're professionals in the high tech industry. We have professional attorneys, nurses, people that have really good incomes, because you know what? You need to have two good incomes nowadays to be able to even get into a house.
And the math is kind of crazy when you're looking at 20% down on a $1.3 million house, how much you actually have to make to qualify for that. What do you tell a person that's coming in with 10% down? Because there's 10% down jumbos out there that go up to $1.5 million, and with no mortgage insurance, and the rate is fantastic, and there's a lot of people qualifying for that. But on the side of competing against other buyers that may have 30%, 40% down, are those types of people actually getting their offers accepted?
Basically, it's very difficult to come in with an offer with 90% financing, because you are going to be up against people with all cash, people with putting 50% down. The standard is 20% down, but you see people more like putting down at least 30%. That's what we've been seeing.
Well, so I want to come back and talk a little bit more about how a buyer that's coming in, let's just say it's 20%, and they have a little bit of room to wiggle on multiple offers over asking price. I want to talk a little bit more about how that type of buyer can get a property in San Mateo County. We're going to come right back. We have Julie Geyer on from RE/MAX. I'm Tony Mendez. That's Gordon Hines. We'll come right back after this break and call the show 800-516-1220.
This is Money 2.0 on AM 1220 KDOW.
Welcome back into the Real Estate Report. I am Tony Mendez.
And I'm Gordon Hines.
On occasion, we have a really good guest in. Today we have Julie Geyer. We had her on last segment. We were talking a little bit about what it's like to buy a house in San Mateo County, and pretty much the story fills in over the whole peninsula. $1.38 million the median home price in San Mateo County, which is amazing considering that 6 years ago, it was only $695. Which is incredible.
Right. It's amazing.
Yeah. And, for a while there, it was as a first-time home buyer or somebody coming in with a little bit low down payment, there was a lot of inventory to choose from, and sellers were kind of feeling like, hey, we need to sell this house. But it's not like that now. And you come in with 10% down, and maybe you need a bunch of reserves because you're using a jumbo loan, and you don't have a lot of wiggle room to negotiate with a seller who's trying to get over asking price, and there's multiple offers. Somebody's coming in with cash or 50% down. They have a lot of room. So the question here, Julie, is, and it doesn't necessarily have to be 10% down. It could be 20% down or 30% down. It's a competitive market. What does it take for a buyer? And you can just say the whole Bay Area is like this. What does it take for a buyer to get their offer accepted now?
I think the best thing, Tony, is when you meet the listing agent and you're presenting your offer, is have the client's loan officer call in and also scan and send paperwork showing their income, how strong, how well qualified they are, and also a letter coming from the buyer's heart explaining that this is their very first home. They've been looking, how they love this home and how they could see themselves living in this home and having a family. I think it's really important to a seller that they know how badly these clients want the house. So I think doing things of that nature are only going to help to get
What about
people in.
How often are you?
I really do know sellers that have accepted offers like this as compared to all cash offers, even with a loan.
Okay.
They just didn't have a loan contingency.
What about even offering a part of your offer, a to be determined approval, where, and we do these all the time now because, and they're, from our perspective, it's working very well, where somebody's walking in with an actual approval. All they got to do is fill in the address. Is that an extra step that you think people should take?
Absolutely. Every single step that they possibly could think that they could do it with any home that your agent is going to go present on. When I have clients like that, automatically I ask them, you write a letter explaining how you love this house to the seller. And most all the letters I get are just beautiful and really, really coming from the heart. And then, of course, I always have a lender call in, their lender that they use or whatever, call in to the listing agent to tell the listing agent how well qualified these people are, and that they really don't even need a loan contingency, but they are having to get a loan, so why not put it in there?
Yeah, it does. We do really see this, that when you add all of those things together, it really does make a difference. Julie, how do people get in contact with you? Because I'm sure people are interested in, that are looking to buy, working with an experienced realtor. What's your best contact info?
My best contact number is my cell number, which is area code 650-704-0506.
0506. And I think it's Julie. It's Julie at juliegeiersells.com, or you can always email me, Tony at BayAreaLoanSource.com. I'd be glad to give out the information. That's Tony at BayAreaLoanSource.com. Thank you very much for being with us, and we wish you a lot of success and happy holidays.
And happy holidays to you too, and thank you so much.
You're welcome. We'll talk soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
So you got, Gordon, it's easy to say that that's the same kind of philosophy you want to take no matter where you buy a house nowadays. It may save you the trouble of, save you some money. It may save you the trouble of offering $50,000 more on a property when you can put all of those good factors together. A good motivation letter, a good approval letter, even a TBD approval. TBD means to be determined, and you're literally filling an address in. And those extra steps can save you some money, you think?
Well, in a competitive market, I think anything helps. I think it can't hurt you. It's very, very tough. I think in a competitive market, though, a lot of sellers do go for the higher price. As long as the higher price is qualified, like she just mentioned just now. We talked about that before, where before, a couple of years ago, the all-cash offers were winning out. But now that our market has changed, it's much easier to get a loan. Sellers are more comfortable now in a lending environment. So now, unless you have two offers came in, and the one is all cash, the other is finance, the sellers now are looking at the finance deals as competitive as all cash because they know they are going to close. Because if you came with a predetermined TBD, that means your loan is already approved. All we need to do is plug in the address.
Yeah, you're going to get a loan anyways, right? Why not get a TBD approval and go through the steps? You're just doing it before you identified a house. I think it's a no-brainer to do that. It's the same. You're basically doing a submission without an address. And it makes so much sense. You can get any of those little speed bumps out of the way. You can start. We have a client right now who's doing it, and he needed 12 months of canceled checks for his rent because he didn't rent. Lenders are now asking for, if you don't rent from like a professional management company, a property management company, and you rent from a person, they want to see canceled checks. So, I mean, there's things you can get out of the way that can speed up your file. I mean, we're looking at one-day approvals in some cases for some of these lenders for conditions. So you can literally sweeten your offer as much as you can with shorter escrow periods, TBD approvals, motivation letters, even bank statements showing that you have all of that cash there ready to go. And all of a sudden you have a house and an offer accepted, and then you move forward. It's starting to work and click with a lot of these lenders, and they're making it easier.
That's one of the reasons why when we work with clients, when they come in, we get their financial information, we run their credit report. We also run the automated underwriting system, the DU or the DO. That way we know what we have. By the time we issue a pre-approval letter, that person's ready to go. It might not be a TBD, but if we follow all the directions from the automated approval, we verify the assets, we verify the income. There's nothing that's going to overturn that because we're accurate. We know what we're doing. We're professionals. That's why people come to us, because when we give up pre-approvals, you're just as good to go with the TBD.
A couple more things we want to talk about in the last segment when we come back after this break. Automated appraisals. They don't paint the whole picture. That's something we could talk about. Why are higher earners moving towards renting houses instead of buying. That's an interesting story. Housing trends favor builders for entry-level homes. That's a really good story that we want to start hitting, because we need affordable housing. So there's so much going on in real estate right now. You can always join our newsletter. We put a lot of these stories out at BayAreaLoanSource.com, BayAreaLoanSource.com. That's Gordon Hines. I'm Tony Mendez. You can always call the show 800-516-1220 or email the show, Tony@BayAreaLoanSource.com. We'll come right back after this break.
ForumDisrupt.com/KDOW.
This is Money 2.0 on AM 1220 KDOW.
Come with me now.
Welcome back into the Real Estate Report. I'm Tony Mendez.
And I'm Gordon Hines.
We're going to get right to it. The state and history.
Not too much as far as real estate events are concerned, but I guess the greatest thing in history today, the death of George Washington, our first president, actually died today.
1789? Something.
Kinda
a long time ago. Imagine buying a piece of real estate back then, and it's still in the family, right? You can always email the show, Tony@BayAreaLoanSource.com. We got an email from Charles in Napa. He's been renting for over 5 years and has only saved about $50,000 down for a down payment on a house. This kind of fits into our low down payment talk we've been doing today. We make good money, but a lot of it's been used in rents and kids. Our rent has gone up so much in the 5 years, we cannot avoid buying a house now. Most houses where we live are in the $800,000 to $1 million range. What kind of loans are available with $50,000 down? Well, 10% down jumbo with no mortgage insurance. Those are very popular now. You have to get good credit scores for that, and you have to have, in some cases, 12 months, 18 months in reserves. So if you have $50,000 and you don't have a lot of reserves, but you can use 401k in some cases, sometimes they do 50%. You can do 401k and the rest has to be cash, so you have to be careful about that. 5% down jumbos, you have a slightly higher rate. Those come with no mortgage insurance either. Those go up to $1.5 million, Gordon. FHA.
Well, 679 at 3.5% down. Or if you take 679, add 50,000 to it.
703.
$729,000 actually.
Yeah. Fannie Mae 5% down. That's up to $715 price. You can also do the 80-15-5 combo. And that kind of brings me up to that story about what they call BRED, B-R-E-D. It's called Blended Rate Equity Driver. It's a really interesting product. Not a product. It's more of a strategy on how you can build more equity in your house. The story here, though, is more about, when people put 5 or 10% down, even 15% down, or they get a first, second combo, it's not always your final loan. But what it does is get you into the house. It gets you out of renting and you start building equity in one of the three ways: principal balance, your down payment, and then your appreciation. And then you get another loan when you build that equity and you improve your position. And I think we have a client right now that he only has $44,000 down on a down payment, and he's looking at $850,000 house. He's going to get a first and second combo. There's no mortgage insurance. The rates are really decent for the first, but this doesn't have to be his final loan. And the thought here, Gordon, is that he can save money. I want to coin this phrase. All right, you don't have to you can save money after you buy the house, not just before it. And what he's going to do is just save some money after he buys the house. Maybe he's going to get some bonus or improved income, and then you put some more money into it and you improve your situation on top of the appreciation and principal payment. So that it doesn't have to be your final loan. A lot of people think it does.
Well, one of the things we always talk about in the program, of course, is not race but programs. One of the major programs that went away after the Dodd-Frank bill was the seller-assisted financing. Before the seller was able to participate in the finance, you went out and got an 80% first. The seller carried 10%. You put down 10%. Since that program actually went away, that was a great mix in having people sell, but it was also a lot of fraud involved. But now we figure out with these 80-10-10s coming back, where we have a first and a second position together, it could actually let you qualify for more housing and more flexibility because less money you have to come out of pocket with to close your transaction.
Yeah, and important to note, good credit scores. First thing you do when you're looking for a house, check your credit. Even if you just go to Credit Karma and get that Vantage score, it's not quite the same as your FICO scores, but it gives you an idea of what's going on because these programs are they're highly driven by credit score, and you don't want to get stuck paying a little bit higher or get eliminated completely. So check that first. We offer the opportunity for people to review their credit. You can always go to our website, BayAreaLoanSource.com, or you can email us, Tony@BayAreaLoanSource.com, before you go into a transaction. I say at least 3 months, Gordon.
Yeah, always good to be prepared. That's what the realtor said on the air. The more prepared you are, the more documentation you can give, the better off you're going to have of getting your offer accepted in a competitive market, especially if you're in that affordability factor, the $300,000 to $400,000 to $500,000 price range. Very, very competitive. All cities, all across the nation.
Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week. I'm Tony Mendez. That's Gordon Hines. You can visit our website, BayAreaLoanSource.com, or email us, Tony@BayAreaLoanSource.com. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week.